Hello everyone, my name is Emrah Gökçe from Henry Stewart Events, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the final session of this 6-part online course, DAM and the Consumer Experience, with our chair, Theresa Regli from Veritas Digital. Today we're also joined by Pieter, Stroop van Renen and Ania Kierczynska from Censhare. Just a few housekeeping points. If you have any questions, please type them into your question box of your GoToWebinar menu, and Theresa will pick these up during the session. Each session will be recorded and a link will be sent to you later, along with a PDF of the presentation. Now it is my great pleasure to pass you over to Theresa Regli. Thank you. Theresa, over to you.
Thank you, Emrah. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for this last session in our 6-part series, DAM and the Consumer Experience. I'm having a very multi-channel experience with this series because I've been doing it from a few different locations, and today I'm delivering it from a client office on an iPad in a different part of London than I usually am. So it's kind of exciting to be able to do these sorts of things from all over the world, in this day and age. So I'm really excited today to be joined by Pieter and Ania, who, especially Pieter, I've known for a very long time, and we have a lot of mutual clients where I've been a part of some European implementations of Censhare. So we're going to be talking about bringing together DAM, PIM, and CMS for better consumer experience. And this is an extremely relevant topic, of course, especially if you sell a product online, which of course many, if not most companies that we work with do that exact thing. So we'll be talking about that today. Now, Emrah's driving my slides. So Emrah, if you could just move on to the next slide. And I will just say, if you missed any of the prior sessions, please make sure that you listen to the recordings, because they've been really wonderful. We've had many great speakers over the last several weeks that we've been running this series. So if you didn't get your email from Henry Stewart saying when the recording is accessible, please feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to provide them. So I'm just going to give a quick intro to DAM and PIM before the real product experts get into the details. If you could just dive into the next slide, Emrah, that would be great. We talked about, in session 1, we talked about omni-channel, and we're going to kind of put some bookends here on the sessions, because this group is also going to talk about omni-channel and delivering, great omni-channel experiences by bringing together CMS and DAM and PIM, and the elements of essentially having this multifaceted product experience, which requires multiple technologies, and it requires integrating your DAM with good product data, and of course having a very good outbound channel to present to your customers. So this is what I'll call a TBT, a Throwback Thursday slide from session 1, where I defined what omnichannel is. And again, it's about this customer-centric approach. And Pieter and Ania are going to tell some great customer stories from Censhare customers where they're exactly doing this. They're retailers, they're manufacturers, they're companies that are selling products online, but across many, many channels. So the idea of omni-channel, of course, is an evolution of really how we've been selling things on the internet for a long time, and it's very customer-centric. So whether you're in a store and you're using a kiosk, whether you are looking at a product online, depending on how you're interacting, this is what omnichannel is all about. So you have a consistent experience across all these channels. And if you are using a single PIM, that's source of truth for digital assets plus your product data, you can make that experience more consistent. You can move on, Emrah, for me. That'd be good. You could go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so PIM basics. You can just build this slide, Emrah. You can just bring all the points up. So a little bit about PIM, which we haven't actually defined very, very deeply on this series. This is an in-depth definition of PIM. So the idea of having a centralized hub for aggregating your product information and having it ready for all business applications. So we also think about a syndication template. So it's not just about being able to sell yourself if you are a direct-to-consumer company. It's also about potentially syndicating your product data and your digital assets together to third parties. So of course, these are marketplace destinations. So you might be sending it to Walmart or Amazon or Tesco or other major retailers. And we're going to talk about a major Belgian retailer today, which is Colruyt Group, which all of us here on this call have worked with. They're one of the largest retailers in Europe, and they this is exactly what they're doing, to be able to syndicate, to be able to sell themselves, and to be able to all their brands, to be able to manage both product information and digital assets. So PIM is really about supporting both product content and data management by having this consistent centralized record of your product data and making sure you have that single authoritative record of a product for any enterprise, really. And it's can be independent of other data repositories. So you might also hear terms like PLM, you might have ERP systems, the whole product data, because they're still in production, or different sorts of people are bringing together this data. But PIM is ideally when it's ready to show to the customer, when it's ready to go out and really sell for you. Next slide, please. There we go. So the risks, if you don't have good product information, are quite high. You might have inconsistent product data and content. You might only meet minimum market requirements. You might fail to engage customers. So there are a lot of companies that have DAMs and have CMSs, but they don't necessarily have PIMs yet. They have like multiple places. Worse yet, they have it in a spreadsheet still. And teams using PIM can potentially have very high ROI because you have this more consistent data that you're presenting, and it helps engage buyers and drive better purchase decisions. And I like to say, remember that like DAM, PIM is also a practice. So it's not just buying the tool, it's also making sure you think through your processes and that you have the right skills to support it as well. You can move on, Emma. So a couple things that PIM applications help users do: they help you write and manage business rules, they help you create workflows, they help you manage taxonomies, which are of course specific to your product hierarchies, and also change your data model. So if you have a new product line, or you have a new branch of a product in a particular area, and when you actually purchase a PIM, or you work with a company that has multiple technologies, including a PIM, such as Censhare, you can then harness the benefits, of course, to do this, in a single place. So thinking about using the cloud also to deliver these solutions, you can have better scalability, more rapid implementation, and these days you can have a lot of machine learning. So to apply things like translation for product descriptions, things like scoring of the products, and even in some cases doing additional automated imagery. And there's a lot of virtual product settings now that get created, where you might position products in a particular environment or in a particular room in a virtual way, rather than having to set up a big complex studio or setting and have a photographer take it that way. So that's an option as well. Next slide, please. So here's just one vision of what PIMs do, what goes in, what comes out. So you think about where PIMs tend to get their data from, oftentimes some sort of back-end business system like an ERP. Suppliers themselves, of course, might be entering data, or there might be something in between the suppliers and the PIM itself. A PLM, as I mentioned, and sometimes, yes, we still have old school files and spreadsheets that get fed into these systems as well. And then within there, just like a DAM, you're enriching your product information. You might be adding some marketing specific information to it, and then you're publishing out. So you might be producing a catalog, another thing that Censhare is very strong at, creating catalogs. E-commerce websites, you might be getting that out to distributors and retailers, and then those third-party marketplaces, as I mentioned. So if you're trying to explain to anyone in your enterprise what PIMs do, you can feel free to use this graphic from TrueCommerce, which I think summarizes it pretty well. Next slide, please. Here's another image of sort of the kinds of things that get managed around products and product data. And this is what you might call a product entity model. And Censhare is going to show some cool stuff in terms of how you can visualize this in their system. So you think about having a product as a central organizing principle, and then you might have different things associated with it, different data sets or different product sets. You might have recipes, you might have data like GS1 data, you might have nutritional information, you might have recipes. There's a lot of product companies that, of course, their products are used. If it's a food company, it's used within something else like a recipe, so they want to put things on their website that include a product rather than just a page for the product itself. So having these relationships, managing these relationships, displaying these relationships, not just to your internal marketers, but also to external buyers of the product, gives them more context, allows them to do the research they want, and allows them to potentially think about, okay, what are all the ways I can use and apply this product in my daily life? Next slide, please. So here's a little bit about DAM's dependency on PIM and sort of vice versa in product companies. And this is an example from basically a Censhare screenshot where you can see you have a bicycle, and this bicycle, you could think a digital asset management system might just have the picture of the bicycle, and it might have just the name of the bicycle. But in this case, you have extremely rich set of product data also about the bicycle. And it's not just about the bicycle, it's about the parts of the bicycle, it's about the things that are associated with the bicycle, it's about related products, it's about pricing. So it's pulling in all kinds of different data from different sources so that you can actually, as a marketer or even as a product manager, you can see the whole thing. So this is great because it gives people a dashboard. The product data gets synchronized with the digital assets. It's usually based on a product ID or a product number, and then those product IDs will have variants so that there's different colors of this bicycle. You're going to have those relationships within your database. So without this authoritative source of data, unfortunately, many aspects might get lost in the shuffle, or they're not part of a consistent process. So bringing this together is really useful and effective. And I've really seen many product companies and retailers make leaps and bounds with marketing products and with syndicating their product data over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Of course, this was driven by the explosion in e-commerce and the pandemic, etc. But the ability of systems to do this has gotten so much better. And the better your data is, and the more you can consistently associate it with your digital assets, the better off you're going to be. Next slide, please. So this is just a more zoom in close up of that particular shot so you can see it. And this is your single product view. So the idea of a product content hub where you've got the data, the images, the related products, and you see content organized around this central concept. So you got the master products with affiliated and or related parts. Next slide, please. So what does this help with? It helps with things like web content management, because you're going to be able to publish things more consistently and more dynamically, so you don't have people necessarily having to do it, and also e-commerce integration. And we think about digital assets. I chose this vitamin D package because, in England, our National Health Service, they recommend that from October to March that everyone should take a vitamin D supplement, right? Because it's so dark here in the winter and we get very little sunlight. And so I was trying to think, in my experience, what have I recently looked at on an e-commerce site that I really appreciated the detail of what I could see on the package and really see the digital assets. So I recently bought these vitamin D tablets, and you can see this is the back of the box of the vitamin D tablets that I bought, and they are very, very descriptive. I could read all the text. I could even see the basically the like biochemical makeup of the type of vitamin it was. It gave me all the details. It told me exactly what the dosage was. And it just was it was really good digital asset experience, because I was buying a very detailed product, and it gave me really good product data, really good descriptions. And I don't know actually what system it was that got this product to Amazon for me, but I thought this was a good experience of product data and digital assets that I wanted to share with you all, because this is a good example. So thinking about your assets need to be detailed enough to allow your consumers to make a decision, right? And that is empowered. That is powered through PIM, and that is powered through good digital assets where I can see the detail of the product that I'm going to buy. So thinking about that specific data and being able to see the package and being able to really get the details that I want before I decide to buy it. So that's my example of the day. Next slide, please. Finally, I showed this slide last week, or actually it was on Tuesday, but I'm going to show it one more time because it's a little bit different twist on it, which is when you think about improving your brand's digital self-presence, it has a lot to do with unifying DAM and PIM and CMS, right? And bringing these things together. So try to eliminate these costly mistakes. We think about missing or inconsistent product data. We think about low resolution, poor image quality. That's why I use that wonderful image of the package, because it really helped me make the decision. I mean, there's so many different vitamin D tablets that I could have bought. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this one because it's giving me the detail I want, and it's recommended by certain sources that matter to me. Make sure that your product images are up to date and consistent, right? So that's what this combination of technology allows you to do. So Pieter and Ania are now going to tell some customer stories, talk a little bit about Censhare and their experience in this domain. Over to you, Pieter and Ania. Thank you. Thank you, Emma, for driving.
Yeah, thanks. Let me show the correct window. Am I visible? Yes. The slide there. No, not yet. And we rehearsed this. Can you imagine?
No, we're seeing just a white block.
Yeah, Amber, can you give me the presenter again? Yeah. Oh, there we go.
We see your Teams chat, not your slide deck.
Exactly.
And we rehearsed this. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting the presenter again. Let me set up. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
So, hi everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Theresa. If you're looking for me, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Xing, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, TikTok, OpenSea, Telegram, Outlook, and Teams. A tremendous amount of social media that I'm engaged in because I want to see what's happening in the world and see how people communicate. And this is also for advertisers. One of the biggest things now is to tap into all these channels to reach out to consumers, and that's really what's happening right now. So if you look at all these channels, some of them are popular, some have become popular, some were popular, some will never be popular, etc., etc. But I am consuming all this information also from advertisers in all these channels. So currently at Censhare, and if you look at Censhare, we've been around in the business for quite a long time, have a very successful and very loyal customer base. Our customer retention is 98%. And have internationalized. The head office is in Germany, but we've now spread out over the US, the UK, the Netherlands, where I'm currently residing, and India, and are part of Dumont. And that's an interesting story because Dumont traditionally is a very old publishing company. We've started 400 years ago with printing Bibles in Cologne. And from this little printing shop, we have become the $500 million company that is now very much into digital business. And if you look at the portfolio of services that Dumont has right now, I think they have sold off many of their newspapers that they were publishing in Berlin and in Cologne. We still have some Cologne papers where the head office is, but in the rest of Germany, we have sold them off and have invested in digital business. And Censhare, since 2017, is part of the Dumont family. Since then, we have also acquired Marmind, which is a company providing MRM services. We have acquired Artegic in marketing automation, and we also have Facelift, and that's a social media publishing platform. And that's very fascinating because Censhare, as a content management platform serving PIM, DAM, and CMS, is now also able to connect to these companies who are providing the communication to consumers that use the content that is residing and managed in Censhare. So we have a good marketing technology tech stack, and a majority of the EBITDA of Dumont is now generated by its digital business, serving customers like you see below on the screen, ranging from publishing companies towards retailers, towards insurance companies, and basically anyone who is managing a huge amount of data, a huge amount of content that needs to be managed to communicate to consumers all around the world. We have a very big stronghold in the publishing company, and that's because the original founders of Censhare were employees within the publishing industry. They were working for a weekly magazine publishers, and they found it cumbersome to produce content with the current legacy systems they had. And having a stronghold in the publishing industry is a very good one for us, because what you see is that more and more the retail, the manufacturing, the automotive business have become a publishing business by itself to cater to consumers. And that's the big thing that we see in the communication world right now. As of today, marketeers have become publishers. You need so much content to keep consumers satisfied and help them acquire services, buy products online, buy products in shops, that they need to publish so much. And now, if you take a step aside and look at the website of Apple, and you want to buy a phone, and in this case it's the iPhone 14 Pro, then there's not only digital assets that are served to the customers that are shopping online for this phone, but it also contains product data, as Theresa said. Here you see the capacity of the phone, the available variants, the size and weight, until inches and millimeters behind the comma, the weight of them, there is product instructions, there is manuals, there is information about what new features there are online. And this is all product data that is served on the website of Apple, but obviously also to all the smartphones if you approach Apple via your smartphone. All this product data needs to reside somewhere, needs to be combined with digital assets. And this is a very interesting one. It's the crash detect service that Apple has, that if your phone notices that you're braking too sudden, then it must be an accident, and it will serve the emergency call on your screen to help you in getting the emergency services. But also this service is described in their sales environment to the very last detail. Therefore, it needs content management specifically. Marketing has become content production, and if you look at the experience that I had previously with the automotive branch, Tesla has completely put the automotive branch upside down, because every time your Tesla has an update, your product is new and there's new information to share. This has turned around the automotive market tremendously. So all the automotive companies are now working really hard to launch more models per year, more upgrades of their products a year. So all these marketing departments of the automotive industries, but also other industries, have become busy with setting up campaigns more than ever. Instead of 4 product launches a year, they have to cater for 4 product launches per month, which means that they need content, that they need campaigns, that they need marketing automation. And if you do not centralize the content production for this, it becomes a complete disaster. So you need to cater for multi-channel, and not 1 campaign per year, but 4 campaigns per month, maybe weekly, maybe daily, maybe real time. So you need to feed a content factory. And that's the real rush now in catering for consumers who want to have the latest info. And recently I saw some statistics from PIM vendors, which is a PIM consultancy company in the Netherlands, that 10% of the consumers in Europe, they go away from websites if the product information is not correct, if it hasn't got the latest information or the correct information you need. And some of the retailers, the big retailers in the Netherlands and across Europe, they produce so much content that they need this content to attract consumers to their website, who then will buy the product that this video is about that they publish. And speaking about a content factory, one of our customers is IKEA. IKEA has its main office in Almhult in Sweden, which is a very small village, but Almhult is pretty much dominated by IKEA. Not only do they have the IKEA communication head offices there, but they have the IKEA hotel, they have the IKEA museum, they have IKEA taxis, they have IKEA bicycles that you can rent. Everything is IKEA there, and that's because they host one of the biggest content production factories that I've ever seen. The IKEA head office, they have a big hall in which they have studios that contain all the rooms that they make up for one day, and they fill with all the products that you see in their catalogs. And the rooms that you see here on these pictures are actually created day by day by the IKEA carpenters, the IKEA painters, who will set up a room. It's all made from almost cardboard and painted, and then the furniture is put in there, photographed, obviously. All the products are photographed separately, and then the next day they put up a next room, all to fill the traditional catalogs and to fill the online content. Well, the catalogs are no more existing. This was a Swedish Bible that was used all over the world, but they still have online catalogs, and they still need to manufacture the PIM info and the product info to feed all the websites that they have and the product catalogs that they have. And this, in a sense, is what you see all around. Companies have product factories. Colruyt has one as well, to photograph products, to put them into a setting, to put them in a decor, combine it with the product info, and you see that very clearly in the catalogs here. It has pricing info, it has sizing info, it has color info, it has fabric info. That all needs to feed into one place. And in our vision, you cannot do that without strategically addressing the fact that you need to master your content on a very strategic level, and to enable the company to centralize all this content production into one place to feed all the automation. And my previous past was working for marketing automation companies, where we needed to, for instance, set up an email that was tailored to the consumer, that was dynamically loaded with content from different areas, from different systems, from an ERP system, from a file server that contained the pictures. But the automation always went wrong, because when the emails were produced, you saw that the pricing information was faulty, there was descriptions missing, the pictures were not correct. We had to go back to the working table, get the Excel files, as Theresa said, and work with the Excel files, clean them up manually, then putting them back into the marketing automation system, and then produce it. And this company said, we cannot get our systems up and running, we cannot get our systems straight, so let's forget about marketing automation and let's send one email to our 400,000 consumers in the same way that we've done for the previous 20 years. And that's where marketing automation halts. To solve these issues, you can buy all kinds of tools and products, and that's one of the other things that you need to connect. You not only need to connect to all the systems that are providing content, the ERP systems, the pricing info, your PIM systems, the digital assets on the file system, but you also need to connect to the outgoing world upstream to tools that present this information to the consumers, whether that's a CMS, whether that's a commerce platform, whether that's marketing automation or a social media tool. All that content needs to go somewhere. And this is the second challenge of many customers, is that they have many systems. And this is the marketing systems landscape, where we have the DAM, PIM, and MRM area, and somewhere down the line you will find Censhare. So we are engineering our customers towards less systems and use one content management system that sits right in the middle of your downstream data from the left side. So Censhare consumes customer data, analytics and insight, campaign management, results data, your ERP systems, your product management, your PLM systems, manage it in the inside, enrich it, centralize it, structure it, get data quality in control, and then upstream deliver it to all the outgoing channels that serve then consumers on the right way. And practically, this cannot be done without a centralized system that contains PIM, DAM, and CMS, because imagine that the price is changing of a product because the purchase department has a better deal on a product that they are acquiring and then sold onwards to the consumers. If you need to change the pricing info in one campaign, in one flyer or in one email, it's a hassle to do that in 30 or 40 systems. Better change it into the central system and then serve it to all the systems on the right side. Otherwise, the marketeers will be busy in doing more administrative work than they can produce content and make great campaigns. And one of our customers said, instead of 4 days a week administrating what we do, we want to create great content 4 days of the week, and not only 1 day in the week, because for the rest we are busy with emailing our marketing agency to change something, change it in 12 systems, then get it back, then approve it, etc., etc. So what is needed is, as Theresa said, you need everything into one system, because these are all the assets that you need in marketing campaigns. And from the setup, Censhare has been a system that has been set up as one system only. So it's not the acquisitions of 3, 4 different suppliers and then having it Censhare branded. The platform has been built so that it contains all the assets that you need to communicate to your consumers. So if you go into Censhare, into the software platform, it's one system without boundaries, where from one to the other moments, you're dealing with DAM data, you're looking at a picture and looking at the product that it's connected to, then you're in the product data, you can change the product data right there, then you go back to the picture, look at other pictures, look at variants of the picture of this product. So it's seamless. It's one platform, bottom up, that's constructed in the correct way to enable you to do so. And why relationships matter is because all the assets that you need to perform great marketing are related to each other. You might have a magazine, you might have a catalog that holds product information. There's pictures in this catalog. But to create the catalog, you need workflows. There's designers working on them. There is journalists working on them. There's copywriters working on them. Then there's an editor working on them. There's product people who need to look at the correctness of the product data. The catalog contains of fonts. There's text in there. There's a license agreement to the pictures that you're using as well. So everything called an asset that you need in your marketing environment needs to be contained in one database. And Censhare has selected the graph database technology as a very innovative technology to enable you to search quickly to look up the info, but also to maintain the relationship between all these objects in your database that are connected to each other. The way to do that is graph database technology allows you for that. The other alternatives, the more traditional relational database way of working. And the relational database traditionally is a database that contains all the information stored in different tables. So you might have a table with your product info, you might have a table with the processes, you might have a table with all the assets that are connected to a picture. But all these relational database tables are connected to each other with other relations, which makes the search slow. It makes it very difficult to look at your relationship. It makes it also very difficult to be flexible with your data structure. In the old days, when you are building a database and you are thinking of the data that you need, you can build a relational database on the basis of good scoping. But if you want to add other data, you need to change the structure of your relational database. And with a graph database, it's very intuitive, and you can basically add data structures on the fly by just adding them to the relationships and to the connections and the relations in the graph database. So this is a typical screenshot from Censhare. You see one asset in the middle with all the relations to the correlating assets that are in the database. So you see one picture, but it's connected to duplicates of the pictures. You see where this picture is placed in. You see what tasks are still to be performed by the photographer or the editor on this picture. You see also the variance that this one has. For instance, different relational aspect ratios for each and every picture to be placed either on a mobile phone, either to be put in the high resolution in the catalog, all the variants, and also some tasks assigned to other people who need to work with this picture. And if you would click on any of the other assets, then you will zoom into that asset and see what that asset is related to. Obviously, you're not going to work inside the graph database. So we have a UI that allows you to work with these assets in different view types. So we have not a module because it's all in one system. We have a view on the digital assets that you might work with. You can also zoom in into the workflows that you have created for enabling a campaign, to build a campaign, and it shows you what is needed to do, that the photographer needs to upload this picture, that needs to be edited, that needs to be approved, and it goes into the catalog or it goes into a social media campaign. The content management, where text can be edited and can be looked upon, where we have now some quite cool AI plugins from one of our partners that has developed a ChatGPT plugin to generate automated content. Print production management, where you can really look at the flat plans that you're creating to make a catalog or to make a product flyer. The web and headless CMS that enable you to use that information in the CMS that you have through our headless. We have also a content picker that can be integrated into your web CMS, where you can pick the assets that you need within your own CMS, and the translation model that makes sure that the translation of the content of your marketing communication has different layers of different languages, so that that's also centrally managed within Censhare. And then project management and the PIM module that Theresa has shown some slides for. So a couple of our client cases, really giant retailers, for instance, Migros in Switzerland, that are using Censhare to centrally create all the communication that they need within their stores, within their 600 retail facilities, currently 6 million assets managed in the system. That has led to a reduction in hosting costs of other platforms that they needed, a reduction in agency costs because the agencies do not need to recreate all the communication again and again for the different variants that they need throughout all their different media. PDFs generated every year, not only for product catalogs and product flyers, but also all the in-store communication that they need and the weekly variants of the magazines. Censhare there functions as a central DAM and PIM tool that serves exactly what I've been outlining before. Then IKEA, the catalog production platform used for the production of catalogs and flyers and product flyers all over. The catalog business has decreased, but the product flyers are still created within Censhare by the central DAM that they have created, also covering the process for photography that they're managing through Censhare. and then plus retail, which is one of the Netherlands' biggest retailers that are using Censhare to manage their digital assets and support also shops to create their personalized flyers within the shops that otherwise need to be created on a head office level, but now can be created through their retail organizations. And that finishes my side of the presentation. And we recently acquired Colruyt as a customer. Colruyt, the big retailer in Belgium, that have not only the Colruyt brand, but that also are managing the Spar supermarkets and have another series of subsidiaries. And Colruyt were looking into centralizing their dam, making all digital assets available all across the stores that they have, the head offices they have, the product marketeers, and the marketing staff. We have acquired them recently as a customer and are in the middle of the setup of the environment for them to continue working.
Right, Pieter, would you like me to add some more
Yes, sure. If
information
you
on
could
that?
do
Cool.
and talk a little bit about Colruyt, that would be cool.
Yeah, so Colruyt is actually a big program. It's not just projects that we've done. It contains several projects in it. Obviously, starting with them, we've migrated around 250,000 assets right now. It will be more of them with more migration. And we also cleaned up the data. I think that was really interesting exercise for the customer. With that, we automated the tagging. With that amount of assets, we needed to have some AI that will help them tag and classify those assets. We do have a PIM. There's not all information about the products. It also stays elsewhere. However, we do need product information to feed other services like creating magazines. So one of our projects was co-creation, so making it easy for people to put products on the brochures, on the magazines, on the pages, create them very easily. There were some challenges like language variants, because in Belgium there are several languages. They produce their catalogs in different languages, and there are also other variants, because as a customer you might be interested in different type of products. So there are several variants of the content as well. On top of the standard, everyone gets X amount of pages are the same, but there are a couple pages in every magazine that will differ depending on what your customer choices were. We are simplifying here or maybe making it easier for designers, but also for the store managers to order materials, because as a store manager, I might want to, I don't know, I have a wine tasting and I want to promote it. I want to create a poster. I don't want to necessarily go to a designer and the designer needs to put everything together. No, they create a template, and we will have a service that is self-service for marketeers and store managers to be able to by themselves create what they need. So obviously there are correct rights on it. There will be templates. They will be able to pre-select one of the templates, choose a product, choose some information. Some of it is non-editable, like product information. You might want to put it, and then easily from the self-service platform, which is based on our CMS starter kit, you will be able to order. So there's there are a lot of integrations as well. We have, I think, 13, if not more, integrations because we need to get the right information on the price, on the promotions, because sometimes you want to mix two products together, and there are a lot of business logic behind it. So definitely simplifying work for a lot of people and giving them less dependency on other departments to do it. And also we needed to unify the processes across brands as much as we can. It's not always possible for every single thing, but it also helps you if the brands work in a very similar way. It helps you also how you develop and manage your data. We will have hundreds of users. I can't remember on the top of my head how many on the self-service, but there'll be a few hundreds of users using Censhare Core. And on top of that, you have all of the stores managers and marketeers using the self-service platform to create their own materials. Some challenges with that was obviously to make sure that everyone has the correct access, because the access on the one hand needs to enable you collaboration, because there are several things that you want to share across brands, that you want to get inspired by or inspire others because you did this great campaign and some other brand wants to learn from it, do something similar. There's certain materials you want to share, and also there's certain materials that you want to keep for yourself as a brand. So there's right domain structures to enable both collaboration, but also keeping things private to yourself. And thanks to that, that we have done PIM, self-service, co-creation, integrations. We are also working on the campaigns, briefs, and requesting the marketing material and content. We will have, right now, it's not live yet with this part of the system, but we will have a content creation, and that means we will also have some translations in the system due to several languages. However, the system language stays in English. There is a localized content. So yeah, I think that will be a brief
Thank you.
intro to
Cool.
Corporate. Thank you.
Thanks. So thank you for the opportunity to present here, and I'll give it back to you, Amra.
Hello. Nope, it's back to me, actually.
Cool. Even
back
better.
on the camera. There we go. Hello. Yes, so feel free to ask some questions. I know I have a few questions to start, but you just go to the questions tab in your GoToMeeting window there, and you can put in any questions you have on those customer studies or any of the very interesting things that I think Pieter went through as well. Let me ask a couple of questions to start while we see what else comes in. Ania, I'm very curious by your, I think about your title, Project Management Lead. Maybe talk a little bit about the importance of project management in these sorts of situations where you have, obviously you're implementing, a lot of people on this call are DAM focused, but when you're implementing sort of different technology streams, different data streams, can you talk a bit about project management in the context of these sorts of implementations? Why is it important? What does your team do? That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very important to have a project manager on both sides, to be honest, because the customers also have their project managers. But from our side, it's good to have someone who has, first of all, will help you with all of the admin stuff, set up everything that project managers are doing. At Censhare, our project managers are also a little bit more technical, and I think it's very beneficial for the customer to have someone with the technical knowledge and the knowledge about the products that isn't particularly a developer talking only technical language. It's a good way to have this translator for your business needs to what we actually can achieve and how we can do it. And I think this is really good. And then having a project manager on the provider side, it also helps because like, okay, I know whom I can get together to help you out with this particular solution. So I think this is really important to have.
Yeah, it's good. I agree. I think it's good to hear from you as well, because I think a lot of people that they'll buy a sort of a very important foundational technology product, and then they don't necessarily have an internal project manager. So I think it's great to make that recommendation on both sides. The IKEA case study, we have a question about the IKEA case study here. And, just as an aside, I went to Almhut once when I was working with IKEA. And, one of the interesting things that's a coincidence, in addition to IKEA having their headquarters there, did you know that Linnaeus, the man who invented the, one of the most famous taxonomies, for biology, anyway, he was from there as well. And so there's a statue of Linnaeus in the middle of Almhut. So you don't just go for the IKEA, you could go, if you're into taxonomies and categorizations, you can pay homage to Linnaeus.
That's a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most famous. I remember having a picture of myself, like selfie with the Linnaeus statue there. So question around that, when you have a company that's developing a lot of different print materials for product as well as online, there's a question like around what comes first, right? or does one come first? So it's interesting when you think about omni-channel. You know, sometimes there's organizations that there's a catalog group, and then there's the web group, and then there's, you know, different sort of, they're organized by channel. So in a situation like this where you're trying to build an omni-channel experience, does print come first? Does digital come first? How does that work?
Well, I think content should come first, and not where it's used for. So, you know, in the business lines, people tend to stick to their own solutions, to their own methods, to their own databases, to the tools that they've been acquired and they've been safeguarding, because that's the tools that they work from. But it really needs a strategic decision from corporate side, from board side, that hold on, there are all these channels, they are silos, so we should get rid of silos, let people work with the assets, but have one central storage and one central management plane for the assets. And that's where it is a long-term decision to go into centralizing it, find the tools and means, and then from the centralization, then feed all the systems that use this content. But it's, you know, I've seen many customers where content is made in different places. A sidestep to the publishing industry, we have publishing companies with journalists writing articles for consumer magazines that, for instance, describe a recipe to make a nice soup. The other journalist in that other country is also writing a recipe for a same sort of soup, uses pictures of ingredients, and they are photo shooting these ingredients while the other country has done that as well. So there is so much into sharing content, and centralizing content is a way of making it much more efficient. Why pay photographers twice? Why have designers work on a picture or changing the aspect ratio of a picture for one channel while you can have them centrally? And in a central content platform, you have one picture, you have different variants of them in different aspect ratios, different resolutions that then can be used according to the decision making of the system and the algorithms into the different channels. So start first, but that's company politics that you need to cut right through.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, content first. I like that. That should be a new theme. Unfortunately, I think a lot of organizations are still organized around these channel silos. And I had said to a client recently, you know, before you implement this thing, you just got to blow up the way you're organized because they had a digital channel, and they had a print channel, and they had people organized by output, and that was why they were duplicating so much content and, you know, things like that. So point well, content first, and think about it that way. That's very good. One of the interesting things you said was around consumers will leave the site. 10% of consumers will leave the site if the information about the product is incorrect. But of course, how do they know the product? What's one of the things that struck me was, how would they know it's incorrect to begin with? You know, but sometimes it might. I mean, sometimes they might know it's incorrect, and sometimes they might. But I wonder about risk and ramifications if they buy a product on the basis of wrong information as well. I mean, maybe.
No, you see sometimes these cases that end up in the news where TV is offered for €1, and they click very quickly to buy this one for €1 while it was €1,000. Now, you don't stand a chance in court, because if you as a consumer understand that this cannot be sold for €1, then the purchase is not valid. But the reputation damage for any retailer online who does stuff like that is tremendous. But it's not even so much incorrect info, but also missing info. You know, if you want to have a chair or a couch in your home, and you don't know what the sizes are, you're not going to buy it because you're missing info. And people continue and go onward. So there is ramification of having incorrect product info.
Yeah, and I imagine, we had a question actually on an earlier webinar session that might be interesting to bring up here as well and get your perspective. We had somebody on the webinar earlier this week that she was in the liquor industry, and she was upset that she couldn't get the third-party retailers to update their product information. You know, so they're not selling direct to consumer; they're selling through third parties. But it was tough to get them to update. It makes me think you have a lot of retail clients that, like Colruyt, perfect example, where they sell many brands, but they also sell their own brand products as well. How do you manage that? I mean, you know, getting all the third parties to update and sort of balancing those relationships is tough, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of an open-ended question, but how do both the companies that produce the products themselves and the retailers deal with that constant constant need to update information. That's obviously not happening manually. So
yeah, no, well, there's no one solution, but the thing is systemization and having the correct standard for all that product information. Like GS1, you mentioned it already. If everybody sticks to that same standard, it makes integrations more easy. And give the manufacturers an ability to manage that info and to change the info and work on it themselves and provide the correct info. Yeah. And I think systemization and having structure and processes in place is key to that. And get rid of the Excel sheets, but manage it centrally.
I know, and there's still a lot of manual transfers happening as well. And I guess we haven't mentioned APIs. I mean, maybe we could talk a bit about that, because I've had a lot of clients transition from doing massive exports from PLM systems or ERP systems into a giant spreadsheet, and then uploading those into a PIM system, and then using basically using the product ID to associate the right digital assets to the data. How have you helped some companies maybe transition from that manual to using an API? Obviously, you've worked a lot on your API as Censhare's product. Maybe speak a little about how APIs can be used.
Yeah, they can be used because providing standard plugins is a great one, but I don't believe much that things are standard, because you need to always tweak in the information that you read and write. Again, defining very well the processes. Who is looking at this data? Who is using this data? Who is appending the data? Who's using it for what? And then down the line, before you do an implementation, you might discover that this company has 3 or 4 other companies using the data or managing the data, manipulating it with having manual processes in between. We've had customers in which we went through that whole process of what they do with data, and we had sticky notes all along the wall of moments and interceptions and manipulations and interventions of the same data stream. I said, start at the basis, work in that system, have also approvals, who can touch the data, who cannot touch the data. So it's really clearly thinking of processes and solutions around the processes before you even build the APIs, and with who you build the APIs, until you discover, oh, there's someone else manipulating the data. I didn't even notice. Yeah,
and I would imagine the project managers, Ania, that you have on your team, they probably spend a lot of time helping clients figure that out, because I constantly say I don't do process mapping. I'm not a process person. I'm a technologist. But exactly that. I always say, well, you might want to use this API, but then you have to understand how does it work today, right? So maybe talk about that from a project management perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And with every single customer, when we get something, it's like, okay, let's standardize it, because we'll be like, okay, I have input from this place, and everyone is doing it differently. Let's standardize it. Let's make it, clean it up, make it one. And then it's very easy to feed it back. Obviously, like Pieter said, after we have those APIs, then we can decide, okay, is it only push? Is it pull? How often do we transfer the data? Probably we'll just give the delta if something is changing, and to whom we actually need to connect, because then you will have your main sources where you're selling your product. So those are the ones that you actually do want to make sure that there's the information is definitely up to date, and how often you do it. So yeah, and then there's other things that are coming to your system, like the price information. This is not something that you're storing in the DAM or PIM, because there's so much business logic behind what price can be displayed when and how. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff going on when we are discovering those things.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Okay, that's all the questions we have. Pieter, Ania, any last thoughts before we wrap up here, or any other questions? Last chance to submit questions for anybody who still has them. Any other thoughts, wisdom you want to share before we go? You've already shared a lot of wisdom, so it's okay if you don't.
I think so, but I picked up on a couple of things in your presentation as well, that integrating PIM and DAM is ever so more important. And what I said, I hope that companies recognize that integrating them and doing it once right is very much worth the investment. And then it delivers you so much opportunities to communicate faster, to communicate better, and to communicate properly with consumers without the hassle of having to combine too many data sources that are not integrated.
Very well said. Go ahead, Ania.
And I would say that what is really important is also, I think it comes back to having a PM on the provider side. Sometimes you will have business needs that you don't even know that your provider can satisfy. And you might have one coffee discussions like, oh, I have this thing. I would want, as an example I had last year, I would want my the store managers to be able to very easily create their materials and order them. But I think it's not in your system. I was like, of course it is, because I'm an expert here and I can help you out. So also, if you need someone on the more like to just brainstorm solutions, is it something that we could satisfy? Or I have this problem without even thinking on technical side. I just have a problem that I want my store managers to easily order materials. Just don't hesitate to ask, because you might be surprised what you get there. And I often see that we start with one product like DAM, let's say, and we do expand it because it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. All the recordings for the series will be available, and there will also be a feedback form coming to get your feedback on all these sessions. There will be ongoing sessions and webinars that Henry Stroop will continue to do, and so we really appreciate getting your feedback on the sessions, the speakers, and of course me as a moderator. I'm the one who sort of corrals all these fine people together. So please feel free to send any feedback. We would really appreciate it, good or bad, because we always can do better. So thank you very much, Pieter and Ania, for joining. And
thank you so much for the hospitality.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.